Hi there, I'm Alex Berthé. Welcome to the Heights School and Mentors Compass. This is our last video of the academic year, season 1, if you will, of Mentors Compass. How to end? I thought long and hard about what's the best guidance I can give you, and it soon became obvious. It's the hallmark of our approach with boys here at the Heights. It's taking a long-term view of your son or mentee and respecting his freedom. So what does taking a long-term view mean? Well, for one, it means remembering that your primary goal is helping your son or mentee get to heaven, not Harvard, although that's very good too. But putting things into perspective like this can really help you in terms of tempering your reactions, helping you to be thoughtful in your conversations with your mentee and how you are with them. Right? But in practical terms, here are a few ideas that I want to share with you. Number one, when they mess up, which they will, remember the words our Savior said when we messed up. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Be merciful, be patient. Always give your son or mentee's intentions the benefit of the doubt. It's their inexperienced judgment that you're trying to shape and guide. When you correct them, remember that you're forming their souls. The way you correct them is likely the way they'll treat others. Think of your grandkids, your future daughter-in-law. They'll be on the receiving end down the road, so set the example. And a word on correcting, on discipline. You've surely heard this by now, but discipline actually comes from a word that means to teach, to instruct. So it's probably better to say that you are guiding, instructing, teaching, educating, cultivating, nurturing, encouraging, and fostering goodness in your son or mentee. So think of yourself as a farmer who is trying to provide the right conditions for the land to bear fruit. In parenting and mentoring, you're also trying to create the right conditions. And there's all sorts of things that you need to balance. Being overreactive versus overpermissive. Teaching, instructing, and guiding your son or mentee in the proper use of his freedom in a way that strengthens and builds him up versus guilting, coercing, and shaming him into behaviors that you want to see, but they're not his. They're not his choices. He doesn't own them. It's actually very harmful. And in relation to this previous point, it's good to remember something that our headmaster often says, which is that each conversation should serve two purposes: to instruct and to leave the door open for the next conversation. Your son or mentee should want to come back and talk to you again. And when you do have that conversation, you've got to balance being a micromanager, a worrywart, acting like everything is a crisis, versus being too hands-off. He'll just figure it out. Sometimes, yes, but not necessarily. Sometimes you just really got to show your leadership. What works for one child may not work for another. And it may not be the child who needs to change necessarily, but you and your approach. A long-term view also means spending quantity and quality time with your children. Recognize that these are precious years, they're childhood years, and once they're out of the house or once they're out of your school, you'll see them in bits and pieces, that your students maybe, and the most impressionable period for you to really have had some influence will have passed. You need to be present. Eating with them, reading with them, enjoying enriching activities with them, taking a curious interest in their lives. Pope Francis said it best: waste time with your children. Silly jokes, asking them what their favorite memory from the day was, asking for their company while you walk the dog or run an errand, but with the bigger purpose of just being in their lives. For mentors, that means hanging out with kids in the hallways when they're changing classes. That might mean pulling away from an important email or lesson planning. Every interaction, no matter how brief for a teacher or mentor, gives you an extra line of credit that you may need to cash in on down the road in a way that serves your mentee. And lastly, taking a long-term view means respecting your child's freedom. Granted, you should never allow anything morally offensive in your school or in your house. There's no room for negotiation there. But what I'm talking about here is remembering that your son or mentee is not you. Their life experience is not your life experience. Your dreams are not necessarily their dreams. Your way of seeing the world is not exactly their way of seeing the world. Or their ideal career path might be totally different than what you have in mind for them. You are their guide here on earth who plays a major role in their finding their vocation. But their journey is theirs. They are a unique soul. As St. Josemaria Escrivá wrote in his book Furrow, let each wayfarer follow his own way. You can't always save them. Sometimes you have to give them the gift of failure so they can learn through experience and natural consequences. You got to give them a loose leash sometimes. You can't take away all the pain and suffering that they will have to encounter at some point. You have to trust. Trust that God has a plan for them, that He's given them all the grace they need to overcome and to be happy. And no matter what happens, you have to be optimistic about them. Let them know, it's okay, son. It's going to be all right. I heard a story of a famous official who was overseas. And while he was gone, his son got into lots of trouble. And the media was having a field day with him. And one might have expected this famous official to go to town on his son for sullying his family's good name. But what did he do? When he got back, he went to his son and he said, "It's going to be okay, son. I'm here now. We'll figure it out." That's optimism. So that's it, not just for today, but for Season 1 of Mentors Compass. From all of us here at the Heights School, I want to thank you for joining us. It's been an immense pleasure and honor to share with you what we do and how we do in terms of mentoring and in our conversations with parents and how they can raise virtuous families, happy kids. I hope that you got something out of this. Your feedback and your comments are most welcome. And I want to wish you a wonderful summer. Thanks again. I'm Alex Berthé, and I hope to see you around.